Hello there guys, today I'm going to be building this Tamiya Supermarine Spitfire Mark I in 1/48 scale. This is one of those things where I pulled it out of my stash thinking, this is brand new, I bought it when it was brand new, and then I looked it up on ScaleMates and realised that that was in 2018 and this kit is now 8 years old. However, I do remember that the reason I bought it is because the kit was applauded when it was released for being such a high quality kit. So I'm really looking forward to building this. This of course is a Spitfire Mark I, and although the last Spitfire was the Mark 24, the story is far more nuanced than that. Many marks of the Spitfire had subversions, or they had ongoing changes which didn't necessarily require a new designation. For example, the earliest Spitfire Mark Is had a wooden two-bladed propeller rather than the three-bladed metal version which we see here. And in fact, early on in the Spitfire's life, there was a change from a flat canopy to a blown canopy, which again we see here. So this kit does represent a Spitfire Mark I, but I'm not quite sure, I'm not a Spitfire expert, I'm not quite sure where in the lifespan of the Spitfire Mark I this particular version falls. Or should I say how accurate it is to that time period. The kit gives us 3 different paint schemes, which are quite varied when you consider that they're all dark earth and dark green. So the first version here is 610 Squadron, Battle of Britain 1940 with your classic dark earth and dark green, and then the sky underside. And DWK of course, with those huge letters at the slight angle, is quite a famous airframe. It's been featured in quite a few model kits. Next up we have version B, which is 65 Squadron, 1939, pre-World War II. Here we have a aluminium underside, and notably we have the roundels on the underwing as well, and the very small roundels on both the fuselage and the upper wings. To be honest, this is the version that I am drawn towards. And then finally version C, 19 Squadron, Operation Dynamo, 1940. Different markings there in terms of the roundels, and there we have that early black and white underwing side to try to help with identification of friendly aircraft. And really we have to decide on our version straight away, because step 1 requires different steps for different versions. So with that in mind, I did go for the pre-World War II 1939 version, just for something a bit different. And at this stage, because we're building the cockpit, we also need to decide if we're going to have the cockpit door open or closed, and the canopy open or closed. And I went for both open. As you might expect, the pieces fall together, and when we put the cockpit side in here and look on the other side, you wouldn't be able to tell that that is a separate piece. It forms such a natural panel line. Unusually for a Tamiya kit, I find at least, we do get some photo etch, and the first part is these straps which go over the rudder pedals. You can see the level of detail here in the cockpit is excellent, and some of this should be visible with both the canopy and the door open. If you really wanted, you could drill out those holes there in the spar, but I'm not going to. The landing gear bays were equally easy to make, and as with most of my aircraft, I decided to have this gear down. The angle of those wheel wells meant it was just as easy to paint them once the upper and lower wing were together, so that's what I did next. And the wingtip and the aileron just slip into place. You can see that classic Spitfire look taking shape. And again, another little great piece of engineering there by Tamiya. The two landing gear legs are this single individual piece here, but that part in the middle just gets covered up by a lower panel. And the great thing about that is it provides extra strength. It guarantees that you've got the two legs parallel with each other because they're already moulded that way in the one part. But it just makes the modeller's life that little bit easier. Next up was painting. The interior of the cockpit has a combination of aluminium and the interior green. I gave everything a coat of XF1 black, then I gave everything a coat of the green. I decided to brush paint the aluminium on top. This is the Vallejo metal colour aluminium, and it's a really easy colour to brush paint. Then of course there are a few details to pick out in a variety of colours. I haven't even put the photoetch seatbelts in yet, but I think that looks like a really good cockpit. The fuselage sides then go together perfectly, although I think I made a small mistake here. I don't think there's supposed to be a seam line all the way down the nose there. I think I'm right in saying there is at the front of the nose, because that's how the engine cover opens perhaps. But I think towards the cockpit there shouldn't be a seam line there, and I did leave that there all the way up to and including after the painting, so that was a slight mistake on my part. In terms of masking, we do get a sheet included with the kit, which is a nice touch. I used this to mask off the front of the canopy glass, and then I used the spare canopy piece, the piece for the closed canopy, just temporarily tacked in place as essentially a masking piece to protect the cockpit. And at the end I'll pull that out and put the real piece in. I then gave the entire kit a coat of XF1 black, followed by a coat of real colours from AK RAF Dark Earth. Here I very loosely followed the pattern from the instructions because I'm going to use the technique that I always use, which is this Tamiya masking sheet cut to protect the dark earth, cut to provide the camouflage pattern there. I find this much easier than using tape. Here you can see the camouflage mask in place, ready for the dark green. And here we are after the dark green. We then have to mask again because of course we want the aluminium on the underside. And although I'm not 100% keen on the colour, and it does tend to come out a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? The metallic flakes tend to be a little bit big, I find, in the Tamiya XF16. It does spray more reliably than any other metallic colour I know. The glary colours are good, and the Vallejo colours are good, but I do find I have to be super careful not to overload the surface. And I don't have to be quite so careful with the Tamiya paints, they're a bit more tolerant. So that's what I used for the underside. I then made a small mistake because I painted what I thought was all the deckled areas in VMS gloss varnish to give a nice smooth surface. But I forgot one area here, and you can see that here where I've put the Mr. Mark softener, decal softener, it's just lightened that paint because it wasn't protected by the varnish. It's gone much lighter actually, but I think I can get around that with a little bit of weathering and so on later on. I hope I can. That said, I did make a bit of a pig's ear of these line decals. I barely got them in the right position, and I certainly didn't get them straight, and I got them a bit wrinkled as well. so not exactly my finest hour on the decals. That said, I did a lot better with the ID codes and the roundels. One slightly odd thing that I noticed, these underwing decals have cutouts for the protrusions on the wing, which makes sense, and it really helps with positioning them. Except that if you compare the port wing here with the starboard wing, the roundel on the starboard wing is much further back. And of course we can't move it forwards because then the cutout won't be aligned. Well, I suppose we could, but it seems a bit silly. And that means the roundel also goes back over the aileron, which I don't think it should do. And the marking sheet does suggest that they should be in the same location. Not a huge problem, they are under wing, so they're not going to be seen so much, but it was a bit strange. We do get decals for the yellow propeller tips, but I just painted them on. At this point I feel like it's taking shape, and I've given the whole aircraft a coat of VMS matte varnish to really, well, matte it down. We do have these slightly odd rectangular stickers which go just below the engine cover. I'm not 100% sure what they are really, or indeed why Tamiya have given them as stickers rather than just decals. They are quite thick, and I did consider leaving them off, especially considering I haven't seen them on reference photos, but in the end I did add them. If you have any overspray on your canopy like I did, you can just use a cocktail stick to gently scrape away the excess. Next up was weathering, and to be honest I'm never really sure how to weather aircraft. I find it much more difficult than taking a tank or something and chucking mud or dust all over it. We do have a few reference photos of this aircraft, and they all do show quite a lot of weathering, especially sort of behind the engine, between the engine and the cockpit. I'm not 100% sure what that is, but I guess since it's just below the fuel filler cap, it probably is just residue of fuel. On the other hand, I don't see a huge indication of exhaust staining, which we do see on quite a lot of models. On the other hand, in this image here in particular, we can sort of see the panel lines quite clearly. So I thought that's what I'd stick with initially. I took my classic sepia oil paint, thinned it with odourless thinner, and though initially I started to do it as a pin wash, putting it just in the panel lines, I then decided to just sludge it all over the aircraft. There's quite a lot of fine detail in this kit, and that just helps it flow in there. I probably didn't wait quite long enough before I wiped the excess away. And I'm doing this in a streaking pattern going backwards in the direction of airflow. But I think maybe we've got a little bit of dirtying up going on there. It certainly is more effective, I think, on the underside where we've got that aluminium colour. And that definitely leaves things a bit more streaky. I know there are lots of sort of filler caps for oil and things like that, or vents and so on that tend to leak things and leak hydraulic fluid and so on. But I do tend to prefer a cleaner look to my aircraft. So once I'd done the pin wash, the oil wash, I was pretty much happy with a little bit of black pigment on the exhaust, and then a corresponding amount of black and slightly sort of reddish black on the fuselage behind the exhaust for some exhaust staining. I did a tiny amount of chipping around the step into the cockpit. This is just sponge chipping. The reference image shows quite a lot of chipping around the door, but mainly on the door panel itself, which of course is down for me. So with that done, the final step was to add the aerials. You can't really see any of those on the reference images, but it's quite unusual to see that, so I thought I would include it. And this is just some easy line which is used for ship's rigging amongst other things. And with that done, my Spitfire was complete. And there we go, folks, that was my build of the, what I thought was new but is now 8 years old, Tamiya Mark I Spitfire. This is a great kit of a British icon, and it's the first time I've done a Spitfire in the temperate land scheme. Previously I've done Spitfires in the desert scheme, which was before my YouTube channel, in an all blue Malta scheme, and of course in the day fighter scheme. This is a Mark 12, I think, isn't it? But yes, I do like them in that classic temperate land scheme. I do have the Airfix Hurricane, which will be in the same scheme, that I need to build at some point. I think sort of Battle of Britain era Hurricane and Spitfire next to each other will look pretty cool. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I certainly had a lot of fun building the kit. I really appreciate all of you watching this far, and I would like to give special thanks to my Patreon supporters and my YouTube members for their support of my channel. They get to see lots of work in progress photos and other behind the scenes information, so if that's something you would like, a link to my Patreon is in the description below. I hope to have another video ready for you soon. Until then, thank you again for watching, it's massively appreciated, and have fun modelling.